Okay, sorry about that, guys. I'm a little late. I was upstairs talking to my wife. Today's her birthday. Today is my wife Barbara's birthday, and so I kind of got distracted a little bit there. So I'm back on schedule here right now. You got to accommodate the wife. Let me get squared up here. Coming from my house here, and trying to get situated this morning. Oops, got my old Pennzoil shirt all messed up here. But I'm trying to get in here and try to get started this Sunday morning. See what y'all have got on y'all's mind. I've had a busy week. I've had a lot of Napa product coming in, getting in the new store. And I've also had a lot of issues with trucks and everything too. Had to do one recovery one night. I had one that I think it's a VNT problem or whatever. Hey, Ponca, how are you this morning? Yeah, we're trying to get started this morning. I got started in there about 2 minutes late. Being an old radio guy from years ago, that's a no-no. You don't do that. If you schedule something at 9 o'clock, you better be there at 9 o'clock. My wife even got on to me. She said, "You're going to be late," and so I try to do that as promptly as I can. The years ago when I was a radio DJ and everything, that was back in my youth. I was a DJ and owned the radio station, actually, the one that's right beside where my dealership is now, where my Napa store is. It's only about 100 yards away from my store, so I can get a real good AM signal there. It's AM radio, and actually they even added a FM radio to it now. They got a small power FM station to go along with that, which is really cool. I wish we'd had that in my day, but that's neither one way or the other. I enjoyed it. I learned a lot. That was one of my biggest mistakes business-wise, because I was underfunded and too young, underfunded, and thought I knew what I was doing in business, and I really hadn't. I hadn't done my research. I mean, I guess that's the key to it. I hadn't really done my research of how tough it would have been. I thought I took the numbers that somebody else gave me, and I didn't do my due diligence. And by not doing my own due diligence, I made a huge mistake there. So my advice to anybody that's going into business, do what they call your due diligence. You check out every aspect of every facet, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Yeah, I was a soulful sound of Michael Jones. Yeah, that now I have to do. Yeah, I can still do it. I can still do the weather and everything. Like I go like today's weather would be. Let's see, in Cherryville today, it's partly cloudy with a little intermittent sunshine here and there, and about 59 degrees for a high today. And that's the way I would have done it way back in the day. But I had a face for radio, is what they said. Didn't need the space on TV or anything. Just I had a face made for radio. But yeah, anytime anybody's getting into a project of any kind of magnitude, hey, Chris, been up. Oh God, throwing out water. Wow. Yep. Now you made your own self a drip, didn't you? That's the bad thing about that. It must be getting kind of cool out there in the Midwest. Right now, we're not doing too bad here. It got down in the 30s last night over here, but it's supposed to be back up to about 59 or 60 here today. I think a high yesterday got about 60, 61. But we've had a couple of cold snaps, cold mornings. Yeah. Yeah, crappy and needing more crappy, huh? Yeah, I can understand that. That's tough. Mm. Yep, yeah, you're gonna have to thaw everything out and find out what's burst or busted, as they say. Yeah, you'll have to do that. That's the bad thing about it. That's what happened at my dealership actually last year. Uh, the guys out there didn't keep heat out where the main line comes in from the city, and I'm talking a big line. I think it's about a 3-inch line that we got coming into the building. We got a major line, and they didn't do that last year, and they had a pond out there. I think their water bill for that 1 month was I want to say $800 or $600 or $800 for it. They didn't know about it. It happened over a weekend. They go back down there and it was like open up a fire hydrant on the property, and it all ran down to the lower part of the property and just it really made a mess. Yeah. Yeah. So water and cold temperatures are tough this time of year. Barbara was talking about she drained the irrigation herself yesterday, and we have an irrigation system out of our pond. And my wife actually, she saw what Larry and I did last year, so she did it herself. Kudos. My wife's pretty smart, a hard-working girl too. And like I said, happy birthday to her today because today is her birthday. Oh, most years is exposed. Yeah, it's tough. It is tough when water problems are. I think everybody hates those really bad. I mean, I can't fathom having frozen water. I try to do my best. Now of course, now we're in antifreeze time of the year, real big time with the trucks. So I've got to make sure every piece of equipment's got antifreeze in it. And I know, JC, you probably have spent a fortune on antifreeze the past few weeks trying to make sure all yours are up to par too, because there's nothing worse than have a busted block because of not having enough antifreeze in it. I don't think I had some smaller equipment that we left out one time, and we lost a block on something years ago, but I haven't had anything lately. Well, hey, Ed, how are you this morning? Yeah, Ed, your hands are covered in diesel. Oh, I tell you what. Oh, you're going to have to, I had to send you some Gojo out there. Mm. Yeah, and that's the best way to do it too, because I tell you, Ed, and the bad thing about it is if you got some of them and that aren't crankable, and that's the tough part. Yeah, I'll tell you, it's tough. Hey, Jeff, I'll do it, Jeff. I'll tell her. Yep, I'll tell her she looks 16 again. I do have I think, a very attractive wife. We're both getting up in some age. We've been married for 48 years, but I think she's very attractive. I tell her very attractive for her age. She doesn't like to have me say that for her age on the end of it. But I think she's a very attractive, well-kept woman. Costs me a lot to keep her like that. Actually not. My wife is very conservative as far as a lot of things. My wife is she doesn't go shop wildly like some ladies do. She doesn't. I don't know. She's just very conservative, very businesslike. She does what we need to do, and I'm very happy the way uh, we have transitioned over the years. Uh, I think she's prettier than I am handsome, that's for sure. And we go back, like I said, we've been together over 50 years since we were dating. So we've got a lot of time together, and very happy with that. Well, good morning, Tim. How are you doing? Glad to see everybody jumping in here. Yeah, I know Jeff's in here. Jeff is Jeff Bearden, as you guys see. He is one of my mechanics, and well, he's a mechanic and does a little bit of everything. He helped clean out the Napa store, the old Napa store. Him and Larry did a couple of weeks ago. It took almost a week to clean out the trash that had accumulated over those 20 or 30 years or whatever they were in that building. So, and they found things stuffed in corners that you wouldn't even imagine. It's just you get people over the years, they start hiding things, I guess, where they just didn't want to turn it in. Didn't. I mean, I probably have returns in there that should have been returned 10 years ago that somebody left back. But that's what you get sometimes. That's what you get. Oh, you've been with Casey since you were 16. Well, that's good. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And that's the thing about it, JC, out of sight, out of mind. And we had a big old counter, and I had never, since I bought the store, go underneath that counter and try to see what all was underneath there. And I bet I had $500 to $1,000 worth of just little spare parts, just stuck everywhere, and I had no idea. It wasn't even counted as the inventory because it had been jammed back in there so badly. And I told Larry and Jeff just clean it down to the bare bones, and they did. And and I guess I benefit some because some of it was probably valuable merchandise. I hadn't gone through it all yet. We got 2 trailer loads that haven't been even unloaded yet. Yeah. Well, we actually have 2 dumpsters. We had one at the new place and one at the old place, and they're full. They're full because they of all the trash and everything else. It's amazing what you can accumulate sometimes. Yeah, I can imagine that way too. I mean, that's like me. I've got 2 trucks that I sold at the auction that people haven't even picked up yet. I mean, they were salvage trucks. They weren't brand new, drivable trucks. But I don't even know. I got to go back and check my records who owns those trucks now, and tell them, hey, come get your trucks, because people invariably will just leave things, and it is what it is. But I'm not going to be responsible of what gets missing off those trucks or whatever, because they were sold. They were told to get them off the get them off my property within reasonable time. But 6 months is not a reasonable time, I don't think. These people need to come get them, but they're still there. But they're on the back side of the property. They're not really bothering us. But if they come to find them or get them, and they go, oh well, I thought it had this, and this, I'm going, hey, no, you wait 6 months. I'm not there guarding that piece of equipment. It's a salvage piece of equipment. Come get it. 580 pounds of metal. Well, yeah, that brought a good bit of money then, didn't it, Chris? Yeah. Now that's what I ought to do too. Just start charging these people storage if they don't want to come get it, and say, hey, here's your storage bill. After 6 months, I'm charging storage, and yeah. They'll owe me more in storage than they paid for the property, probably. I mean, because they were salvage trucks. We'd already, the one, I mean, both of them have motors in them, so the motors are worth something. But, you know, the bodies, we'd taken a lot off the bodies. Yeah, and that's what I'm gonna end up having on these two. Also, if the people, I mean, I had to find out who they are and do the research through the auction company because I actually don't even know who owns them right now. I mean, they'd have to come with their tickets and everything to prove they own it to me because I have no record of that. Because when the auction people don't give me their records of who the purchaser is. I mean, if I turn over a title or whatever, that's one thing. But to just selling it as scrap, I have no means of knowing who they are. I mean, I know offhand who some of these people are, but some people I didn't know them from Adam. So they're gonna have to come back with a receipt or something if they want the property because they've left it over here for 6 months. Yeah, I may have to do that. Yeah, it states on there that it's supposed to be removed within 30 or 60 days, I think. Yeah, that's probably what I'll do. Just if I get a hold of them, say, please come get your trucks. You owe me X amount of money in storage since I've kept it for 6 months. Because yes, I mean we had the sale on May 18th, I believe it was. And here it is, the 18th of the month again. This is what, June, July. I got to count with fingers. June, July, August, September, October, November. 6 months. 6 months. So that's a little bit. Hey, Doug. How are you this morning? How is Bama? Your weather's probably about like mine. I know. It started out as a chilly morning, and let me see what it. Okay, Google weather.
Right now in Cherryville, it's 39 and mostly sunny. Today, it'll be mostly sunny with a forecasted high of 60 and a low of 39.
Okay, so it's going to get up to 60, like I said. 30. It got down. Well, it's 39 degrees right now, and it's going to get up to 60. Yeah. Yeah, that's the way it goes too, isn't it, Chris? I mean, the scrap business is the scrap business. I mean, and there's something. What is it? It's got to be so old. You don't have to produce a title in North Carolina. I think if it's 10 years or older, you don't have to produce a title when you're scrapping a car. Something like that. I don't know. 39 going up to 62 for you, huh? Okay, well that's good. That's close to what I know. Usually Talladega, and it's just sort of to the left of us, a little left and a little more southern than us. Not much, but it's usually around the same temperatures. It would deter you from doing anything, would it? You check the weather and it goes, go back inside. It's cold. Yeah. Yeah, I tell you what, the scrap business is a fickle business, isn't it? And you never know what I have scrappers come by my place all the time, and some of them. I mean, I basically had to tell them, we actually have a bin right beside my one shop up here that we put scrap metal in. Our problem is, and Larry, I'll tell you this: we throw it in the scrap bin. And then we'll get to working on a project. And we go, golly, I need this piece of metal. And they say, I think we got that out in the scrap bin. And they'll go out there and dig through the scrap bin to get the piece of metal, bring it back and use it and weld it on or something. So that's what we get. So we use it as a storage container, scrap bin, whatever. And then when I get it completely heat full, I'll get them to come pick it up. New store is going good. I'm really impressed with it. The new store, the business is, the walk-in traffic's a lot better. and a lot of people are coming because the old store was really inconvenient. It was hard to get in and out. It didn't have a paved it had a gravel parking lot, which a lot of people didn't like. And if anybody had any large equipment at all, they couldn't pull in. I mean, for instance, I had a guy with a dump truck that came in this past week, and he wouldn't have been able to even get in our lot. He had a full size triaxle dump truck, and he had an air leak on his truck, and he was able to zip in there and get a ferrule and everything to fix this. It wasn't a big part; it's a couple of dollars, but at least I convenienced him. We're having more female customers too. Before, I mean, we were not an attractive store at all. That other old store I didn't even like going into it. I mean, that's how bad it was. I mean, I was in and out of it myself. I didn't even like staying up there because it was just an old, dingy, dirty old store. And now we've brightened it up. We've cleaned, we got a clean store. And I have to tell some of my guys, we're not going to fall back in the old bad habits of just throwing things down, setting things down, piling things up. We're going to keep this store clean. We're going to know what's what. If we have something brought in, and of course, my customers still drag stuff in and out. I mean, you'll get somebody drag in. You'll see them coming from the door on, and they're dragging a piece of hydraulic hose with them, and it's dragging hydraulic fluid on the floor. Oh, my Pennzoil racing. Yeah. I just threw it on just for the heck of it. I can't remember where I got it. Actually, I believe I got this at the drag race when I went down there for Napa. Yeah, I know it. And I have that. And I got the epoxy floor and everything, and hopefully we'll be able to clean up behind things. And we also have put a lot of the mats down too. So we kind of got a trail. So people, if they do come in, they will kind of walk through the middle and not be as bad. And then we put a plastic laminate, not a laminate, but we put a plastic, it's 1/4 inch thick plastic on top of our counters. So we can, if the guys put a part up on the counter, then it's not going to be so nasty and everything. You would think, Chris. Yeah, I tell you, to change the habits or mentality of the way certain people work and render their self to you, I guess, well, not really render, but say to take people like my parts guys. I mean, I want to keep them. I got some very knowledgeable guys, but sometimes you have to say, hey, get them and shake them and say, we're not going to do that anymore. I made them all quit smoking. I had a couple smokers. I said, you can smoke outside. We are not smoking inside this store. Nothing worse than a person pick up a product, it's plastic sealed or whatever, and they're a non-smoker, and then they get that product and it smells like an ashtray. So my products are not going to smell like an ashtray if I can help it. Now, of course, automotive products are going to have a little bit different smell. And that's exactly right, Tim. I'm the owner. I'm going to set the expectations, and I can prove to them that the old way of doing business was not doing business right. I mean, it went downhill. The more modern, the cleaner, better, more selective way of doing business is the way I'm going to do it. I mean, my store is laid out now so people can find things when they come in, and they can find, we try to have the primary items that they may want out front. I mean, we're going to have the oils, the transmission fluids, the hydraulic fluids and everything. We've got that out front. We got batteries out front. We have all your electrical. We have what they call these trees that have all the different parts on them. And we have the trees designed for electrical with Elkin and Belden or Eklund, not Elkin. Eklund, Belden, and Napa products, everything. all designed on these trees, these circular trees, so we can easily find things. Because that the convenience of that is what I'm after. Yeah, that's right. Well, and that's what we got to do. The store is doubled from what it was doing last year. I mean, I can tell you, but doubling, you know, two times nothing is nothing, as the old saying goes. But we're actually doing a lot better. Uh, the the way that so many of the people were accustomed to the way Napa was doing, it was sort of like next day Napa. Well, I tried to change that mentality because I've got product there. I've got a lot of product, and we're getting ready to even spend more money and probably quadruple the size of the store as far as product. As far as, you know, when somebody comes in, they want a filter for a Honda or a Ford or a Chevy or a Toyota or whatever. We want to have that part right there. Even getting into the harder parts. If you come in and you want something for a 68 Chevy, I want to have it for a 68 Chevy. You know, because there's a lot of people, you have to have the gearhead mentality, you might say. What are people projecting with? That's right. I need it for a Minneapolis Moline cartridge filter. And I probably have that. Chris, I probably do. I probably have that because the fact that we bought out another parts house that was established for almost 60 years, 55, 60 years. He started in the mid 50s, I think. And we bought him out. Yeah, well, NOS too. But I bought him out, and he had a lot of things. As I'll tell you, I had one of the young boys this past summer that was back there, and they were cleaning the parts and checking them and sorting them. And he said, "Mr. Jones," he said, "what's a Packard?" I said, "Well, that's a car you don't see anymore. That's for sure." I said, "You won't see many people driving a Packard."
The Packers narrowly lost to the Seahawks last Thursday. The final score was 27-24.
Okay, Google. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Google thought I said Packers, and I'm an old Southern boy, and my Packard sounded like Packers, and Google just told me the score of the Packers game. I got too many devices pinging around here. I've got the Google Home and Google on my phones and Siri and everything else, and they all get to talking there once in a while. Huh. Oh, new stock, old stock. I thought you meant NOS, like nitrous oxide. I'm sorry, Chris. Yeah, I'll see that now. Well, and that's what I'm after too, Tim. Is, you know, I'm the same way. When I go somewhere, and I want to find it, and I kind of want to have. And I know it's talking about a failed business, but I don't think they failed because of this. But Radio Shack, for instance, used to have everything you could think of electrical. And of course, they got away from their core business model and tried to compete with phones and computers and some things that they shouldn't have gotten into, and really lost their business, I guess. I don't know what failed on them, but their core business was great. I used to love to go into a Radio Shack, and I know some of you guys probably did too, and get just, project boards, wasn't expensive items. And maybe Radio Shack felt like they needed to venture out and get other things, but I like to. That's right, and that's what we've got to do. We've got to be convenience for the person. Yeah, and we always have to compete with the internet too. I try to be competitive. Of course, there's certain things that I can't be as competitive. I mean, there's always going to be somebody that undersells you, and my store has to be the store of convenience. So if I don't have it in stock, then ordering it the next day really is not the option that it used to be, unless it's really hard to get. And I mean, I'll give you, for instance, what happened to us last week, and I was really proud of it. We had a filter for a John Deere excavator that the city of Kings Mountain, which is a city about 12 or 13 miles from here, they had went to their local Napa store. They didn't have it, but they said, well, let's go online and see who may have it. Well, heck, lo and behold, we had it, because we share inventories over the over the internet and over the TAM, what they call the TAM system. All the different stores can look at the other stores' inventories to see what, see if a particular item's there, so they can, help the customer out. And so we were able to get that, had that filter, and it made me feel good. I probably made $1.50, but it was worth $1 million worth of smile to me, because I was glad that our store had that, and no other store, not even the district office had it. And Wix had it on back order too. So it was pretty cool that we had that particular filter, and nobody else in the area had that. So I'm proud of that. But that's not always the way it goes. I mean, I miss probably a lot of sales of things I don't have. But if we kind of use the technology that's available to us, and we're able to take advantage of what all these studies and everything that Napa has, because they have studied and researched every registration in my area. They can basically, and this is what we're getting ready to do with this big purchase we're getting ready to do. They can go back and research every registration in 2 or 3 counties around me, and prepare me to have that type of product on the shelf. And if I can do that, then I'm going to be a very convenient store. And, I'll try to have, if it's a filter, or if it's a brake, a rotor, or, shock, or whatever for that particular car, I'm going to try to have it. Now, I can't have every single piece of every car, but your primary fail items, that's what I want to have. I want to have the items that when you come to the store, that you're going to be happy to see that I have that for your convenience. And I should be very competitive too. Napa products are very competitive, and a good product too. I mean, I got tickled at a guy that was in there yesterday, and he came. He said, "I sure am glad you have this." He said, "I'm not going back. I'm not going to name which store it was. It could have been Advance. It could have been O'Reilly's. It could have been a AutoZone or whatever." He said, "I'm not going back. Their guarantees, they guarantee the product." He said, "But doggone it," he said, "I'm tired of putting it back on." He said, "My labor's worth something." And he said, "I know Napa's products are better." He said, "I've always just kind of shopped the other because it's cheaper." And I said, "Well, I appreciate that." I said, "We're not going to be the cheapest, but I would rather, myself personally, if I'm going to have to do the labor, I would rather have if I'm going to do a rebuilder, I want a rebuilder that I know that is not going to take the shortcuts and call it a rebuild item." I can tell you some stories that the factory has shown us of the different ones who rejects certain items, like starters and water pumps, and just all kind of different things. Some companies will accept a lower fail rate than what Napa does. So that's what I'm trying to do. Yeah. Yeah. Your time, just because you guarantee the part, I mean, what that means is they're going to give you another one just like what you took off. And if their fail rate is worse than the others rebuilders, and rebuilders are only, people don't realize when you can have a rebuilder, and he can rebuild for a couple different companies, like Napa, like AutoZone, like whatever, just because they have that, there's certain criteria that say Napa says we only will accept this, 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 and this if you're rebuilding an alternator. I mean, if it doesn't perform right and or whatever, this rebuilt item will not be accepted. And if you have another person over here that will accept less of a, other words, if something, is marginal and maybe should be replaced, but somebody accepts it, then the fail rate's going to be a lot faster on that one. And that's what you get into with the rebuilt parts. And people don't realize that. I mean, I'm up against it too. And I have this with my turbos. I have a guy that will actually rebuild turbos for me. And I got the turbos that I get from the manufacturer too. And I had to pay more for certain ones, but certain ones will last better. And I don't like doing it twice. Yeah. And that's the thing about it now. And we all, especially people like ourselves, if you want to assure yourself that it's done right, you want to reman it yourself. I mean, that's it in a nutshell. I mean, if you're tearing down an engine and you want to make sure that it's right, you're going to go through it. Whereas, I mean, there's a lot of people will go in there and if they start having a failure on an injector. I a lot of times, sometimes I've gone in and said, well, let's put that injector in and go on with it. But a lot of times I said, let's put a 6-pack in it, because if this one's failing, the one right beside it's going to fail. It's not far behind. It's the way I figure. So a lot of times I'll put a 6-pack in as opposed to just putting one injector in. If we're in a rush and we don't have the time to do that and, do all the other work, that's what I do. Yeah. Well, hey, Walter, I hadn't seen you in there yet. Yeah. No, there's all sorts of, yeah. Yeah. And like Jeff was saying up there too. Jeff will let you know. I keep my suppliers feet to the fire. Like Freightliner delivers to me, to my shop twice a day usually. And we have a busy shop, and, we demand, good pricing and, good service. And we get that out of our local Freightliner. Now I say my local Freightliner, I'm actually supposedly in the Charlotte district, but I buy from Hickory because Hickory services us so much better. I got into a little tit for tat type thing or a little tussle with the Freightliner dealerships up here. The guy in Hickory, he called me, what happened? The sales rep actually from Charlotte kind of put up a little fight over the fact that over the past few years, since I've gotten so much larger and everything, they didn't pay any attention to me, but Hickory did. So Hickory started servicing us several years ago and started giving us a lot better service and, good price too. And our Charlotte Freightliner dealership, I'm actually in their area. So they kind of got jealous about it. And they said, wait a minute, you're in our territory. And I had one of the head men, or it might have been the head man, call me from Freightliner. He said, well, I really need to let you be their customer. I said, I don't have to be anybody's customer. I said, am I not allowed as a customer to buy where I want to buy from? He said, well, I'm really infringing on their territory. And I said, I don't really care about whose territory is what. I said, I want the service. I said, Charlotte had the opportunity to give me good service years ago, and their service was crappy. I mean, they got such a large area. I was just one little small piece of the pie for them. And my business grew, and I got so much larger that, when they weren't paying me any attention to me, it didn't matter to them. But when I got larger and got so many trucks, they got going, oh, wait a minute, that's a pretty good size outfit. We should get that. Well, you didn't service me way back when. Why should I stick with you now? And that's kind of my thinking about it. But that's what happens sometimes. And what? Okay, what? Now, Jason. Yeah, use thicker oil. Yeah, I don't think so. You get, I bet up north, we had to, we got to make sure and have it thin enough down here so it'll crank good. That's for sure. I would hate to have thick oil up north. It'd probably just not sludge out on you, but it'd be so thick and hard, the viscosity, and it would be, you couldn't turn motors over if you didn't have the thinner oil up there. But yeah, it's one of those things. We're talking about the. Yeah, it starts knocking when JC goes on vacation. Yeah, JC just got to make sure and take enough tires with him. That's JC's issue, is tires. On those camper tires, you don't want to take too many. They're Chinese tires on a lot of them anyway, so that's the problem with that. I bet so. I bet they do have to keep them all inside. It'd be hard pressed for us to. Well, we can't. I mean, we've got so many trucks on the out. I mean, I have at the terminals. So I've got 1, 2, 3. I got 6 trucks in Savannah, Georgia, because I'm not worried about those in Savannah freezing. But up here we have. I'm trying to think how many we have at the terminal down there. Just sitting at the Charlotte hub, we have a good 25 or 30 trucks sitting down there. Well, they're usually not sitting because they're on the road, but based out there to come in at night or whatever. I'm kind of catching up on my reading here. Oh, I bet so, JC. Yeah, you're gonna have to get some big power packs and everything to jumpstart everything, or at least get that, and heating up the. That's the thing about it, especially if you're gonna work on something the next day. The best thing to do is go ahead and put the charger on it and let it do a trickle charge or whatever, and let that battery be warmed up, and have a couple chargers out there. If it's a diesel, have you a couple of chargers on those batteries before you even attempt to start it the first time. Of course, I sell starter fluid now. Of course, the thing about starter fluid, and I don't know if you've noticed that, and you get them dependent. We've had some trucks in years past that evidently people that had them before us used a lot of starter fluid, and it seems like the trucks are dependent on starter fluid. I don't know what it is. It's like it's got that particular truck is hard to crank without starting fluid. And I don't know if y'all have ever found that out before, but we've had trucks like that when it gets cold, sometimes that truck is just a starting fluid truck, and that's it. Yeah. Yeah. And that's one reason we got the quick connect on our service truck. We got a quick connect heavy duty. I mean, it's like a 0 gauge wire going out of our service truck that we can, with the quick connect, we just connect it up and then put that on the batteries, the battery cable ends, and we got the, like I said, it's either a 2 or a 0. I mean, it's a heavy duty cable, and it's like welding wire, and we can usually get our truck started. At least have them and rev up the engine for a little bit and get them warmed up, and then fire them up. Good gosh. Well, that was a hard start, wasn't it, JC? Yeah, I tell you, nothing worse than that. I mean, I am so thankful that we don't live in that cold of an area. When we get a cold snap here, I mean, we'll get down to a couple times a year. We might get down to 10 degrees or something like that. Not often. Generally, the coldest we get is in the 20s when our winter hits here. But we don't stay that long in the 20s usually. Guys, I'm about to sneeze. Hold on. Oh, sorry about that. Couldn't help it. I had to sneeze. Y'all can say Kanzunite now. Can you spell that? Yeah. There's been times that we've got the torpedo heater out in the real bad weather conditions. Get the torpedo heater out and put battery chargers on stuff and everything just to get things started. I mean, nothing worse than having something that gelled up, because that. I like I said, I can't bear the thoughts if you don't have the diesel treatment and everything and all those trucks where JC is up there in Ohio. I know that stuff gels up bad. I mean, we have just a couple of times a year that we may have that situation where it might gel up, but not so much down here. And I would hate to think I have to go through up north or out in the Midwest. Yeah. It's we use diesel treatment once it gets, we know that it gets down below, it's going to stay in the 30s and 20s or whatever. We start adding some diesel treatment. We don't have to use it as much down here. That's the beauty of, like I said, again, being in the South, we don't have all the problems. But now we used to have trucks that ran up north, and that would suck on us if we didn't have those. I mean, we had some. We used to have to add the diesel treatment and had the heater blocks on them, or the block heaters, not heater blocks, but block heaters. Had everything plugged in, and I know in Ohio, y'all probably it's probably like when you go up to a location somewhere, probably looks like the old West where they had it where you strap it up for your horse. You about have to strap it up for your truck in places and plug it in. I know that some shops have a lot of plug-ins like that, so the guys can run drop cords out to their block heaters. And block heaters are pretty nice. I like having that on the trucks. Oh, nobody's got places to plug in around there. I know I've seen the guys, those ice road truckers, I guess that's what I'm thinking of, and other places like that. But yeah, it would be convenient. I've seen some truck stops over the years that would have that as an option. I think it's a paid option where you can plug it in. I know at one time they were big about some company came up with a device where you could put all this stuff into your cab of your truck, and it had your heat and air, and you didn't have to run your truck, and then they'd have Wi-Fi, and they built a bunch of things, and then that lasted just a year or two, and everybody's torn those things out now. and they got, I think it just took up too much space, and people didn't want to pay for it, and it was eating valuable space on their lots. Yeah, I tell you one thing, and talking about air. Now, I know this for a fact, and I know some of y'all. Some of the worst things you get into is frozen airlines, and I have to, even down here, we'll get the frozen airlines, and I have to tell my guys, here's what you want to do. Sometimes you definitely want to get the truck. Get your truck, make sure it's not got frozen airlines. But if you do have frozen airlines, you crank up the truck before you do anything with the air compressor or whatever, or anything air related. You want to get that air in the compressor as hot as you can, because it will get up, pretty hot. I would say that the compressor air, once it's compressed, is probably in the neighborhood of 70, 80 degrees or something like that. And if you'll take that compressed air that's built up in the truck, and a lot of times I would tell them to reverse the service and the emergency lines, if they have one that's stuck, and you can blow it out backwards and then put it back on the emergency side and blow it out again, and you will unstick, because it doesn't take but just a little bit of ice in an airline to lock up a trailer. I mean, you can lock one down in a heartbeat. Now, a lot of people like to put the additives and everything in, but if you can do it with just pure air, heated air, in my opinion, you're a lot better off than putting any kind of additive into it, because the additive itself, you don't know how it's going to break down or freeze or refreeze or whatever. And because it's, you're not going to have something real strong, but sometimes you have to add something in there. Of course, sometimes you can put even WD-40. I've used WD-40 and some of these others in there. If you don't have the regular additive, I've done a variety of things to knock off frozen airlines. But that's what you get into and everything. Well, guys, I am going to get off of here. I've gotten to the point I can talk about an hour consistently, and then my voice gets a little bit raw. So I'm going to get off here. I've enjoyed chatting with everybody this morning. Enjoyed seeing everybody that I could, and we're going to see everybody later. Catch you next Sunday for sure.